It is a period of civil war. The last remnants of the old republic have been swept away, and the Empire rules the galaxy by fear. Its newly constructed battle station, the Death Star, is powerful enough to destroy any opposition. Yet, there is hope. A brave few have chosen to stand against the Empire. From their secret base, these rebels are making plans to deal the Empire a crushing blow and restore freedom to the galaxy. Hello everyone and welcome to the One Stop Co-op Shop. This is Colin and today we're going to do a first on the channel. Yes, this is a first. We are going to do a fan-made variant, fan-made solo variant for Star Wars Rebellion. However, with that, I am making a couple adjustments to the rules because I'm also going to be playing with the expansion, The Rise of the Empire, because I think it fixes a lot of the combat issues that I had with the base game, and so I really wanted to play with this, and I've kind of come up with some rules that's going to be different than the fan-made variant. So the fan-made variant you can find on Board Game Geek. I will put a link in the description below. It was designed by Dale Bioncourt, and so I cannot thank Dale enough. Although we have Star Wars Imperial Assault that we could play solo with the app if we wanted, I really love this layout. I love how I am moving ships across the board. It's a galaxy game. The Imperial Assault is great, but it's much more ground and tactical based in a small location. When I think Star Wars, this is what I think. I think planets everywhere, the Empire conquering things, the rebels trying to escape. I mean, that's exactly what I think when I think Star Wars. And so being able to play this or try this solo, I'm really excited. Now, I'm going to say this. This game was designed as a competitive game with no solo variant, and you can tell. The solo variant is great, but it's probably not going to hold pittance to if you're able to play this with an active player. I probably would choose that over doing this solo game. But if you're like me and don't have 4 hours of time to play with people because you've got kids and a family, but you do in the evening by yourself, yeah, then this is what you want to do. The final thing I want to mention is if you've never played Star Wars Rebellion, I'm still going to be teaching the rules, and the vast majority of the rules are going to stay the same. There's going to be differences for the Empire since we are going to be playing as the Rebels, and I'll make sure to explain what's different versus if you were playing this competitively. So if you just want to learn how to play the game too, you can feel free to watch and enjoy the playthrough. And with that, I think it's time. Let's set up the board. Star Wars Rebellion is what we would call an asymmetrical game, and this means that we win in two different ways. So if we were playing the Empire, the AI is going to play the Empire, their goal is going to be to find our rebel base and destroy it. Our goal is, as the rebels, to simply last long enough to where our influence marker is at the same time as the time tracker, and you'll see that in a second. In order to do this, we each have 4 leaders at our disposal to start with. We have the 4 up here, and these are the 4 for the Empire. Now, normally they're standees, and I really like that in the game. It looks really cool, gives a 3D effect, but I'm going to play with them like this since I do these overhead shots, so you guys can see the different leaders. Your leaders are probably one of the most important assets for you in the game. You'll use them to move troops around, you'll use them to complete missions using their skills that you can see here, and you can even use them to oppose missions of the enemy players as well. Just to go over them very quickly, over here we have the name, so it's Princess Leia. Here we have all the different skills that they bring, so if ever they're in a system and there is a test for some sort of mission that needs any of these icons, this tells you how many dice you get to roll to try and get successes. On the bottom left and right of the leader standee, this tells you if that is a tactical hero. So you can see Mon Mothma is not. She cannot move troops. But our other 3 starting leaders can because they have tactics. With the expansion, these numbers denote how many rerolls you get in combat, and depending on which type of combat. So this tells us how many rerolls in space, this tells us how many rerolls in ground battle. As you can see here, Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine, ouch, look at all those symbols. Yeah, so we're a little bit outclassed by the Empire, but that's okay. We're not trying to take over the entire galaxy like they are. We're just trying to survive. For the solo game, we have to choose one additional leader for the Empire. So we grab that from our action deck here. You see this icon? What you'll do at the beginning of the game is you'll make sure to make a deck of cards that only have this icon on the back. There'll be 6 cards that don't have that icon. These are starting action cards. Okay, so you're not going to choose from there. You're going to choose from the pile of recruitable leaders. Okay, and we have Target the Generator. On the bottom of the card, it tells us what leader we can recruit. Sometimes there's 2, so if we're doing this for the Empire, we would just roll a d6 and then determine which one he would pick randomly. But this time, we know which leader he's going to grab, and he's going to bring in some additional fight. Okay. Also, at the start of a combat, if we use this leader, we can destroy one structure of our choice in this system, aka the Empire's choice. So he'll keep this in his hand. Each of us will place our starting leaders in our leader pool here. Now, something I didn't mention. You notice how the leader that we recruited has this little icon right here? That's how you know who your starting leaders are. They don't have that icon. We'll also do the same thing on our faction sheet, and we also have lots of great information on our faction sheet. It tells us, depending on what our production is, what we can produce with that production, and what those ships or those units have as health and what die they roll for attack. You'll see all that in the playthrough. Now let's set up the time tracker. What we do first is we place our round marker here at location 1 and the influence token for the rebels at 14, as you can see the icon here that shows that. As the rebel player, our sole goal is to try and get our influence down far enough so that when the round marker reaches it, our rebel base has not been destroyed. If it's not, we have won the game. If at any time before those two come together, the Empire destroys the rebel base, we have lost. Now there's a couple of icons on the time track. This one on the right tells us that at the end of this round, we will produce units. And the one over here on the left side, this is we will recruit a leader at the beginning of this round. Our next step, we'll need to set up our objectives deck. Now, this is a little bit different with the expansion. This has nothing to do with the solo rules. I'm playing with the expansion, and so this is different than the base game rules of how you set up the objective deck. You start out with the Stage 3 objective cards, and you make sure you pull out the Death Star Plans card. Okay, that's always going to be in the objective deck. Then you randomly shuffle these up and place 4 more in here. 3, 4. So there are 5 total objective cards in the third stage. We'll give them a good shuffle like so. And then we'll do the same thing for the number 2 objectives. So we have a Death Star Plans as 1. We will go 1, 2, 3, and 4 and give these a good shuffle. And then we'll place these on top of stage 3. And then stage 1, there isn't any specific one that you have to have, so you just pick 5 random ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and place those on top of the stage 2 objective cards. Then we'll place this on the board, and at the beginning of the Rebels' turn, we get to draw 1 of these. This objective card states that if at the start of a refresh phase, all populous systems in one region has rebel loyalty, we can push up our influence by 1. Cool. Now we need to set up the action deck. So first thing that we do is of these ones that do not have a recruit icon, we choose 2 randomly for the game, and then the rest of them will go back into the box. Then we just need to make sure that our recruitable action cards are shuffled up and ready to go. So we'll do the same thing for ours. We'll grab 2, 1 and 2, and those will go into our hand, and we can use them depending upon what the card says. The 2 action cards for the Empire is It Is Your Destiny. Used during a mission after a leader is rescued, capture 1 rebel leader who attempted this mission. That's going to stink. And we have Brilliant Administrator. Place this leader in any Imperial system, then place units on the build queue using the system's resource icon and number. Yeah, I'll show you how that works. So that'll go in the hand of the Empire, including this Target the Generator. For us, we have Temporary Alliance. Place this leader in any neutral system, then place units on the build queue using that system's resource icons and number. Cool, so it's actually very similar to the Brilliant Administrator. But then over here, you can see this came from the expansion. It's an immediate, so we have to resolve it right now. Either draw one starting action card or recruit Saw Gerrera. Yeah, I'm going to recruit Saw Gerrera. Isn't he awesome? I really enjoyed him in Rogue One. Honestly, you guys, Rogue One has been my favorite Star Wars movie so far, of all time. It says here, though, if you recruit Saw Gerrera, lose 1 reputation and place him in the leader pool. So unfortunately, we're actually pushing our influence back 1, because remember, the Rebels don't really like Saw Gerrera, but I like him. So since I'm leading the Rebels, we're going to use him. That just means we're going to have to find more ways to get influence back. But hey, starting with an additional leader right at the get-go, I love it. Here's Saw Gerrera. He's not amazing. He only has 2 regular icons, but he does have these 2 small icons. And what those mean is whenever you use them for missions and you have to roll dice, you roll these new green dice. Now, 4 out of the 6 sides are blank on these, but 2 of the sides have a direct hit, so they can be any type of damage, and they are successes when trying to complete missions. He's a bit of a chancy character, but I'm okay with that. Now we're going to set up our tactics cards, but here's the thing. This is the biggest reason I wanted to play with the expansion. We no longer are going to use these generic tactics cards, okay? You're going to remove them from the game. Each of the players have their own specific tactic cards, and each round of combat, you'll actually look at all of them and choose one to play. So I'm going to play that way with the Empire and the Rebels. So you can see the Empire has their own, you can see their symbol right here. So we'll just have those ready. You don't have to shuffle them because you'll be looking at them and choosing 1 per combat round. And of course, they are broken out based on space or ground fighting. Our next step will be setting up the missions deck. So the first thing that you're going to do is grab the missions cards that have these little arrows at the bottom. These are starting mission cards. They're going to start in your hand, and every time you play them, they're going to go back into your hand, so you can do them every single round. Okay, so you're going to have 4 for the Empire and 4 for the Rebels. Next, you'll want to determine which mission decks you want to use. You have the base game mission cards, and now you have the expansion mission cards. You don't shuffle all of them together. Rather, instead, you determine, okay, do I want to use the expansion or do I want to use the base cards? I'm going to use the expansion cards. So you grab all of the cards that have this icon on the bottom that tells you that they're an expansion card, and then all of the ones from the base game that have a leader depicted on the upper left-hand side of the card, because you might still recruit those leaders and they get benefits if they are the ones that do those specific missions. So you'll get all those together and shuffle them up to make your mission deck. Now, the Empire is just a little bit different, and that's because they have a project deck as well. So they have a mission deck and a project deck. These projects, as you can see here, are things like the Death Star, constructing a factory, overseeing projects, making a super star destroyer. Not good things for the Rebels, okay? So when you play this not as a solo game, you would just shuffle these up and place them in the project decked area on the board. But playing this solo, what we do is we grab one of any of these that have more than 1 card. Okay, and we're going to put these randomly into the regular mission deck. So we might just reveal those and do them just as a regular mission because they're going to be inside the mission deck itself. The remainder of these, I'm just going to take, shuffle up, and make it our project deck. There's one more step for the mission cards in the solo rules for the Empire, and that is we have to create 2 different mission decks. One is going to be the 4 starting cards, okay? We're going to shuffle those up and place them here. We have a chart here that tells us, depending upon what turn it is, how many missions we draw and from which deck, from the main mission or from the starting mission deck. Now we're going to start placing loyalties on the board. How we do this is we draw cards from this probe deck. The first 2 Imperial locations that we draw are going to be subjugated. The next 3 will be loyal to the Empire. The first 3 Rebel systems that we reveal will be loyal to the Rebels. So we'll draw our first one, and we have Sullust. Okay, so Sullust will be subjugated. What's cool about these cards is they actually show you where on the board that system is. We'll place the subjugated token right here. Now, subjugated is different from loyalty because essentially the Empire has units here and they are forcing the people to work for the Empire. That means that they only get the leftmost icon here when doing production. And if ever they move all their units out of this location, it's no longer subjugated. Let's draw our next probe card. Okay, Mandalore. Mandalore will also be subjugated. We'll place that subjugated token right here. Let's draw our next probe card. And we have Endor. Okay, you see how Endor, there's no symbol here for either rebels or for the Empire? We just keep drawing. That's a neutral station. Same with Hoth. Same with Felucia. Same with Tatooine. Okay, Naboo. That will be our first rebel system. We'll place the rebel loyalty token right here. Let's keep going. We have Ord Mantell, Toyodaria, Selekami. Ooh, there we go. That is our first Imperial Loyal station. That one is way up here on the northern edge of the board. Next we have Cato Nymodia. We have Nal Hutta. Ooh, we have Ryloth, and that is for our rebels. You can't get much farther north and east on that one. We need 2 more Imperial and 1 more Rebel. Oh, Rhodia for Imperial. We'll place this right here. Next we have Corellia, and that will be the final Imperial loyal station. Yeah, it totally makes sense that Corellia would be loyal to the Empire. We'll place this here as it's adjacent to Coruscant over here. All we need is 1 more rebel. Okay, Mustafar, Megiddo, Alderaan, Malastare, Utapau, Danthamir. Where the heck are they? Dagobah, Ilum, Dantooine, Yavin. Holy crap. Oh, here we go. Kashyyyk. Right in the center of the board. The 5 Imperial stations that we drew, those probe cards are going to be removed from the game. We cannot choose them as our base. Now, playing the game solo, we only have 8 options for where we can place the base. And these 8 locations are all what we call remote systems. A remote system has no production, so it's one of the smaller planets. So I've looked at the board, and the one I think I'm going to do is Ilum. Yes. Okay, so this is where our rebel base is going to be. The remaining of these cards are going to get shuffled in with the probe deck, and that's going to include those 3 loyalty places as well, those loyalty systems, because technically if you weren't playing this as a solo game, you could put your base on those locations if you wanted. I don't highly recommend it because the Empire is probably going to take those over and subjugate them, but you never know. It's a great way to totally mess up the Empire. They're not going to think that that's where you're going to put your base. When you play with the expansion, you can decide whether you want to place units in accordance with the base game rules or use the expansion rules. The expansion rules, the Empire doesn't actually start with the Death Star out. But here's the thing. Someone, Dale specifically, has already determined a setup using the base game rules for the Empire. So I'm just going to use that for both the Rebels and for the Empire. So you can see here, we'll put 2 TIE fighters and 2 stormtroopers in each of the initial 6 systems. That 6th system is Coruscant. Then we'll randomly deploy 3 Star Destroyers in 3 separate systems and then assault carriers in the opposite 3 systems. We'll deploy 1 AT-AT in a random system and then 5 AT-STs in the other remaining systems. And then we'll randomly deploy the Death Star. And I do all of that using a D6. And I'm going to do that off camera. You don't need to see me doing that. For the Rebel player, we'll gain 1 Corellian Corvette, a Rebel transport, 2 X-Wings, 2 Y-Wings, 6 Rebel troopers, and 2 air speeders. And these can either be placed in the Rebel base or 1 Rebel or neutral system. Whenever you place units in the Rebel base, since you don't actually want to show where the Rebel base is, you can use this location to place your units in the Rebel base. Also, the Rebel base will give you production based on what's here on the board itself. If ever, though, you have to reveal that Rebel base location, you'll actually move all those units to the specific planet that you have your Rebel base at, which for us would be Ilum. So you saw I placed some of my units in the Rebel base. Well, I'm also placing some of my units in Utapau, and that's because I really want to gain loyalty here and start making this as production, and I want to be able to protect it. The other reason for placing my units way over there in Utapau is because my Rebel base is right here. So what I'm going to try and do is divert attention over here by maybe going and attacking Imperial units, they're not going to want me to continue to make all of that production, so they're going to have to come over and try and fight me for it. And so that means I'm taking attention off of where our actual rebel base is. And you see, look, here's where the Death Star is. Oh boy. So if that came down, it could just blow up our planet. So yeah, that's why we want to focus over there. Very likely we're going to lose Kashyyyk, because you can see they've got some Imperial units here, and Naboo, they've got Imperial units in Rhodia right next to it. Our final step of setup is we're going to draw 2 mission cards, and these 2 mission cards will go into our hand. And that, my friends, is the setup for Star Wars Rebellion playing solo. I hope you guys are excited. I am so pumped to show you this. It is a lot of fun, and let's hope us Rebels can avoid those Imperials long enough to win the game. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you at the next stop.